All right, so we are going to jump into a slightly different approach than just hearing presentations. This is the mini updates portion of our meeting. So we are going to start with one person online who has to go soon with Liam Schenk from the USGS. But just real quick, you know, this is kind of a bullet point, high level, quick summary that we want to hear about your updates, what's happening in your projects, anything that you want this group to know, since most of you didn't give a presentation today. So, you know, we want the project leads for a group to give an update, not every person. But as you pass the microphone, if you're not the one giving the update, just definitely say your name and who you're with. We'd love that for starting off. But you know, for anyone giving an update, try to keep it to 2 minutes if at all possible, or less. So, Liam, are you unmuted and ready?
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, great. Thanks, Randy. Sorry to jump the line for everybody else, but I'll just give a quick little update here on USGS work. For those who don't know me in the room, my name is Liam Schenk. I'm the science advisor at the Oregon Water Science Center, a hydrologist, and project manager for the USGS work for the Klamath, in the Klamath upper and lower basin and the dam removal. So I'm just going to kind of start from the upper basin and work down. Our annual monitoring stations in Upper Klamath Lake have been installed and are now operating. Those went in a couple of weeks ago. So that's our annual water quality monitoring program funded by Bureau of Reclamation. We have some new work that happened just this weekend. I was able to get a contract through to do some aerial or some airborne snow observation flights in the Upper Sprague. And this is an effort that we're coordinating with NRCS and some other folks in the basin to look at how much snowpack we had up there this year. It came a little late because we lost a lot of snowpack in the month of April, but there will be some new LiDAR flown for this effort within a small sub basin of the Sprague, basically all of the area that drains down to the town of Beatty. So the state gauge there, Sprague River below Brown near Beatty. That whole area above there will have some new LiDAR data for those of you who might be interested in that. Should be available sometime here in the fall. Moving downstream, the Klamath Straits Drain Recirculation report that Annette Sullivan was leading is almost out for publication, going through some final editing. Our dam removal compliance monitoring, that some of what Dave was just talking about, is ongoing. That's our work that we do in cooperation with the Karuk tribes in the Yurok and funded by KRRC. We, myself and Jenny Curtis from the California Water Science Center did a couple of presentations on some of our pre-dam removal studies at the Federal Interagency Sedimentation Conference last week in St. Louis. So we have a couple of PowerPoint presentations that were given there. We have some extended abstracts, basically conference papers that we can share. Jenny was reporting on her bed texture, unmanned aerial approaches, and I did a pre-dam removal suspended sediment flux assessment talk there. That's pretty much it. Just a lot of ongoing work and monitoring around dam removal, our small part of that and that we're doing. And we have some summer work coming up on the lower river. I'll be down in the reaches above Happy Camp doing some side scan surveys in June. And we have some additional installations for turbidity sensors going in preparation for dam removal next year. So we have some high range turbidity sensors and some backscatter sensors that we're installing and ready to do that. There's a lot of other stuff going on, but I don't want to take too much time. Those are kind of the big things that are happening right now from our group. And if there's any questions, feel free to email me or hit me up some other way. So thanks, Randy.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. Appreciate that. We're going to do a quick pause real quick to switch to a different speaker, and hopefully it was a little tinny when you were talking. Sorry if we the lights. Yeah. Yeah, we will do that. So many updates in the room. We're going to start in the front. If you don't have an update to give for your group, just introduce yourself since it's been a while with COVID.
All right, great. I'm Tyler Dearman, Oregon DEQ. I'm the TMDL Basin Coordinator for the Klamath Basin. I guess our major updates is I recently got into my position the beginning of February, and Carissa here joined the agency beginning of April. So we're fully back and staffed up down in the basin. We just started doing the IM15 harmful algal bloom monitoring 2 weeks ago, and so this will be the last season that PacifiCorp is funding that monitoring, and that'll go through the end of October. So we have 5 different sites above JC Boyle that we're monitoring for that. So outside of that, just some continuing temperature monitoring in Lost River and Upper Klamath subbasins. So glad to be here.
Oh, I'm Carissa Willits. I'm the Klamath Basin Specialist at Sorry with Tyler.
I'm John Miedema. You guys will hear about my update. I give a talk here later today, but I have a company called Biological Carbon, and I've been working and researching biochar for about 15 years or so. So I'll have an update here in a little bit.
I'm Nadine Bailey. I work for Family Water Alliance, and we're also the Sacramento Valley Fish Screen Program. For the last 30 years, we've been putting fish screens on the Sacramento River to protect fish from agricultural diversions. We have entered into a partnership with Trout Unlimited to look at the fish screen needs for the Klamath after the dams come out, and we're in the process of identifying those projects and applying for funds so that we can make sure that when the fish get there, they're safe.
Megan Skinner, Water Quality Specialist, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Klamath Falls, and recently funded and am providing technical assistance for the Biochar Phase 2 project, which John will give us an update on here this afternoon. Also continuing to investigate FOSLOC as a means to increase phosphorus sequestration capacity in restored wetlands around Upper Klamath Lake. Right now looking at a potential study design and cost estimates before we move to potentially implementing a pilot study. Investigating the potential for cyanotoxin production other than microcystin in Upper Klamath Lake this summer, using a SPAT sampling design. I did go straight to sample quantification last year, and we had one of the lowest toxin production years in recent memory in Upper Klamath Lake. Great for the ecosystem, not so great for my synoptic study. So decided SPAT was probably the better approach for now, just as a presence absence. That'll start in July. We typically have the highest toxin concentrations and reliable production July through October. A couple water quality monitoring projects related to wetland restoration and process-based restoration, including in the Barton's Agency Unit of Upper Klamath National Wildlife Refuge. That's slated for potential wetland restoration here in a couple years. We, Fish and Wildlife Service, obtained a LiDAR and topography for the Sprague and Sycan last fall, hoping to have that released here any day now. We will use that to update some of the condition metrics in the Upper Klamath Basin Watershed Action Plan that rely on LiDAR, namely incision and the presence of levees and berms. I'll give a quick plug for a literature review that I published last fall in Water Environment Research about phosphorus dynamics in wetlands. The impetus for this was thinking about the potential for sediment phosphorus flux after wetland restoration, particularly in areas that were historically peat wetland that were drained and used for ag production. So that may be useful for others considering similar projects. And working on a cyanobacteria bloom management and remediation techniques manuscript with Desiree Toulos, who I think is joining us virtually, Hans Pearl at UNC, and Ellen Priest in the Bay Area. And this is going to be aimed towards lake managers, natural resource managers. Will likely include a decision tree that can point managers to useful techniques based on various physical and chemical characteristics in the lakes that they manage. And that's it for water quality activities in my office. We have a lot of other activities that occur, obviously, but we don't have any representatives from my office for that. So I'm happy though to point you to anyone else who can speak to those activities if folks have questions about sucker rearing or ESA stuff.
Betsy Stapleton from the Scott River Watershed Council, and like many other entities, right now is an extremely busy time, exciting time with dam removal and the influx of funds that have allowed projects that have been simmering in the background to come forward. Also, the effects of drought curtailment and regulation are reverberating through the community, and there's a change in regards to the potential for access and interest in alternative management strategies on the private lands that encompass a lot of the valley. So the Watershed Council is continuing its work of developing specific habitats that provide value right at this exact moment, while trying to scale up to the watershed scale. In that regards, we've initiated a Scott River Recovery Action Plan, which is really an attempt to integrate all the work across the entire watershed into a comprehensive understanding and make sure that all the individual projects are not just random acts of restoration, but go into an integrated plan and add value across the whole watershed and understand how they interact with each other. Obviously, this is a complex and demanding project. We'll see how far we get. So I think that's a rough overview of the Scott River Watershed Council. And then to make it really clear that I am now speaking as Betsy Stapleton, who has been acting as coordinator for the Klamath Basin Fisheries Collaborative, which is a separate entity, in case there's any confusion about that. The KBFC is birthed here in this room from KBMP, so thank you, Randy. In 2019, it was recognized that there needed to be integration of all the fisheries data that was occurring across the whole Klamath Basin, especially as the dams come out and fish are utilizing the whole basin. So it was kind of a groundswell effort that is now becoming increasingly formalized and receive funding to help develop and get functional a database for all the pit tag data across the entire basin. And that's coming online sometime in the next year. Of note is that we have an annual conference here in this room, June 13th and 14th, followed up with a non-motorized tour of cold water refugia sites on the main stem Klamath, which might translate to a fun rafting trip together. If you have any interest in both the didactic and more hands-on learning experiences, please contact me and I'll provide you information on that.
Hi, Crystal Robinson. I'm a supervisor at the Klamath Watershed Program with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we are going to be doing our, we're currently monitoring out migrant juvenile salmonids out of the Scott and Shasta. And so we'll continue that. I'll be presenting at the conference that Betsy just mentioned, the post-dam removal monitoring plan for the area from Iron Gate to the California state line and what the plans are for CDFW and monitoring those areas moving forward post-dam removal. And that'll be out for public comment in a few weeks. So.
Thank you. My name is Moss Driscoll. I'm here with the Klamath Water Users Association. And I'll just highlight a couple quick things of note. It's interesting to hear all your work, and I'm glad to be part of the group that can hear all these interesting presentations. But we are working on a stewardship planning process, thanks to Oregon Department of Environmental Quality and Bureau of Reclamation, amongst other entities, that is intended to attempt to address TMDL water quality considerations in the Lost River and Lower Klamath Lake area. And in that respect, that planning process, I think, is, as I see it, joining up with several other planning processes that are ongoing, including the K3R process that NIMS is undertaking, a separate planning process that the KBMP is, or sorry, the Klamath Basin Watershed Partnership is hosting with Klamath Drainage District and the RAC Club, which is looking particularly at screening alternatives in conjunction with California Farm Alliance. And just lastly, on the research side, I will just quickly note that we continue to try and work with partners in research opportunities throughout the watershed, but obviously particularly in the upper basin. We are working and hope to be able to have information for more public digest on particularly the hydrologic connection between the Klamath project area, particularly the lower Klamath area, and those cold water refugia that it sounds like you'll have an opportunity to potentially tour. So you may see information on that hopefully in the near future. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Johnson, Projects Coordinator with the Klamath Watershed Partnership. And there are, as you all know, a lot of cool things happening in the Klamath Basin right now. They have several great collaboratives going on in the Upper Basin. A couple projects we have ongoing right now. One of them being post-fire recovery for the 242 fire, the bootleg fire. Both in-stream work, LT PBR work, as well as reforestation. And then also, we have grants for defensible space too, like around the Chiloquin area, Rocky Point area, and things like that. So in light of the recent fire activity, there's been a lot of interest from private landowners regarding these issues. So we've been actually, our project manager, that's pretty much all does anymore is fire recovery, and I can pass along any information you may have to her or vice versa about that. And then personally, our biggest project right now is we partnered up with RES to do a master plan for the Keno stretch, basically a wetland feasibility for Link River all the way to Keno Dam. So, and part of that is one of the discrete projects for that is working with the largest intact wetland in that reach right now, historically speaking. And it's the Tule Smoke Hunt Club. And we're working with them along with other folks to try to improve the habitat out there. Also implementing some fish screens on 2 main diversions for the Klamath Drainage District. And that's the main discrete project for that overall master plan. But then other than that is assessing the feasibility of floodplain reconnection and wetland establishment throughout that reach. And then also we have a lot of projects with the Partners for Fish and Wildlife program. And a lot of those are just working with private landowners implementing best management practices. And a lot of those right now, we have a couple addressing irrigation efficiencies. Also, we have some low-tech process-based restoration in-stream work on some properties as well. So a lot of things happening right now.
My name is Eric Ryland, and I'm with River Reclamation out of Klamath Falls. And as most of you know, we fund or assist with funding with a multitude of studies, such as the natural flow study that we have the presentation on today. We are participating in both movement and survival studies in the upper and lower basin. We are also revising the habitat models for the lower basin. So everything from Iron Gate Dam downstream, and then working on revising both the S3 for cell mounted survival and the RBM10 temperature models. Both of those are being revised due to the dam's removal in the next few years. We're involved in the screening projects that some of the folks have mentioned here, more as an oversight, and because some of the screens feed the Klamath project. We have several habitat restoration projects that are going on. And the biggest thing I think coming up is reclamation will be taking ownership of both Keno Dam and Link River dams, tentatively scheduled for this coming up January.
I'm Dave Webb, Friends of the Shasta River. We're heavily engaged in local planning efforts, including the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act as it relates to the Shasta Valley, the TMDL program in the Shasta Valley and Scott Valley also, and its lack of much progress, the Regional Water Quality Waiver Program for the TMDLs and its lack of adequate protection over the last 15 years. We're the entity willing to put the awkward truths on the table and try to keep the processes honest. And most notably right now, we're engaged in a lawsuit against NOAA Fisheries for what we see as their misuse of the Endangered Species Act provision for safe harbor, which they've turned into an end run around the Endangered Species Act. And we expect that lawsuit to be settled probably in late fall.
I'm Eli Asarian with Riverbend Sciences. I talked earlier about the remote sensing. Some other projects that I have going on is with Jacob Kahn of Aquatic Ecosystem Sciences and Kate Perkins. We're finishing up an analysis for the Klamath tribes on an analysis of temperatures in the tributaries of Upper Klamath Lake. So we've working on that, and we have some additional funding to look at a follow-up to that, to look at the effects of the bootleg fire, and also to use the outputs from the Bureau of Reclamation's natural flow study to try to simulate temperatures. Other projects is published a paper on statistical approaches to relating river flow and water quality using the Scott River as an example, but can be applied anywhere with long-term stream temperature data. And let's see what else. Just about to start a project for the Klamath tribes as a subcontractor to a consulting group called GSI, and that is to on the Sprague River to take the USGS groundwater model and sort of downscale it to finer scale resolution and look at floodplain restoration projects. I'm just doing a little piece of that one, but.
Deja Malone-Persha with the Salmon River Restoration Council. Stefan and I are both habitat restoration program assistants. So some other exciting restoration work that we have in the works. This year, we intend to implement a 20-acre floodplain restoration project, which will be restoring floodplain habitat in a side channel complex using engineered log jams, excavated alcoves, and excavated pools, and also restoring to restore winter rearing habitat and cold water refugia. And then other projects that we have in various stages of development are 2 other floodplain restoration projects on the North and South Fork rivers, and then a project that will be restoring 3 tributaries on the South Fork and main stem.
I had something just because we're KBMP. I don't know if I just outside as somebody recommended that I say this here. Maybe this is the spot for it. Maybe some of you noticed that the USGS gauge website is destined to change on July 1st, and the legacy page won't be available anymore. And if you use it regularly, like I do, that tool has been very, very good at laying out data and summarizing it quickly. Because if you work with data, you can do that, but it takes a lot of time. The new page is only gonna give you 15-minute readouts of everything and won't give you any summarized data, not even a daily average, or the old one give you monthly average, daily average. You could compare it to historic averages. You could do chunks of time. It would do a presentation quality readout. I sent an email to USGS about this. It seems silly that with the amount of funding and that's going on with everything, that they would take something that works really, really well and pare it down so much and make it so that the public has less access to our data in a meaningful way. But instead of just getting upset about it, I rebuilt that. It's not as user-friendly as their website was, but I can share it with my beta version of it with someone, maybe Randy, I'll send it to you. It's just an Excel machine and you can put your 15-minute data that it gives you into the first page, and the second page will do what the website used to do, and it'll give you like the daily averages, and you can just expand the pivot table and make it do whatever you need it to do. But I just thought this might be a group of people that, instead of everyone making that separately on their own time.
Yeah.
Bradford Norman, I'm the Wetlands Program Coordinator for Resegini Rancheria. Some of the projects we're doing is our 5th year of spring migration bird point counts at the Rancheria. We're doing fisheries monitoring. We did a dragonfly diversity study. We finished up. We have 27 species out of 40 possible. We have some amphibian monitoring and some bullfrog removal projects that we're going to continue.
My name's Caitlin Wooling. I am a hydrologist working for the Yurok Tribe Environmental Department. So my study sites are mostly in the lower Klamath tributaries, but I've done some estuary work looking at sediment accretion. And so I run gauging stations that record temperature, turbidity, and stage, and take a lot of stream flow measurements. It was a crazy winter. Thank you for all the field workers who helped me, and collect sediment concentration samples. And so I'm currently going through turbidity data and the concentration data to calculate suspended sediment load. So that's something I've been working on a lot, and we're gearing up to do a stream ecology project in 2 weeks. So we'll be on the ground collecting bugs and paraphyton samples and doing a bunch of other great stuff.
My name is Taz Soto. I'm the fisheries program manager for the Karuk tribe, and we have a bunch of stuff going on right now. We're working on outmigrant trapping on the main stem and Salmon River. We're also just had crews doing sucker salvage at JC Boyle with Rez and the Klamath tribes. We're working on fish disease sampling and water sampling for fish disease. Probably the most exciting study I think we're doing right now is we're starting a spring Chinook study looking at genetics of spring Chinook versus fall Chinook versus summer run Chinook in the Salmon River. And hopefully that study will inform some of the spring Chinook recovery efforts following dam removal. We're also working with our partners at the Mid-Klamath Watershed Council on a bunch of restoration projects, including high-tech stuff like floodplain reconnection and helicopter wood loading in Beaver Creek, mine tailing and floodplain restoration in Red Cap. We're removing an old hatchery that we had in Camp Creek and restoring that floodplain this summer. And we're also assisting USGS and other partners with the Chinook survival and migration study. So there's probably a few other things, but.
Hi, my name is Mike Belchick, and I'm going to try to give an update about Yurok Tribal Fisheries Department. I'm a senior water policy analyst. Barry McCovey Jr. is on leave right now. He's our director. So I just acknowledge right now that our environmental department is also doing a lot of things. You heard a little bit of it. So one of the things we're working on in fulfilling the Yurok Tribe's mission of restoration and stewardship is large-scale solutions and funding for Klamath Basin issues in general. We've been working with Department of Interior leadership on that. We're always, of course, involved in main stem flow issues, including the Klamath and the nexus between dam removal and water management. Trinity River is reconsulting on its flow and reservoir management. And then there's Shasta and Scott issues, as well as the other tributaries that you're referring to. We're concerned with all them. We're heavily involved in dam removal, pre and post dam removal biological monitoring. So Shun O'Rourke, our senior biologist, and their crews are working collaboratively with Allison O'Dowd and Rob Lusardi, and they're just all over the place doing things. We're doing main stem juvenile out migration monitoring on the Klamath, on the Trinity, as well as doing Klamath, assisting Sasha Hallett and Julie with the disease monitoring. Recently contacted Nick Som. We're putting together a summer workshop for the S3 and the habitat modeling that was referred to earlier. We're definitely interested in being involved in that. There's post and then moving to more restoration type activities. There's post dam removal restoration planning. We're working with RES. We've been doing a lot of the seed collection for the revegetation. And then there's a lot of work to be done in the various tributaries, particularly Shoal, Spencer, and Jenny Creek, and we're looking to get involved in that. Our restoration program, we just opened up a new office on Copco for our upper river restoration. So the Yurok Tribe will have a base of operations in there. Moving to the Shasta and Scott, we've been establishing partnerships. We have a new one, required funding to do a large new project at Farmer's Ditch with Karuk Tribe, Cal Trout Water Trust, and Farmer's Ditch Company. We're looking forward to working in the near future with Scott River Watershed Council on doing non-random acts of restoration in keeping with their plan, as well as Quartz Valley. These things are in the near future. Other restoration projects we're doing are we have a very large scale restoration program or project going on the Trinity called Oregon Gulch. It involves moving about 650,000 cubic yards of tailings and establishing a new floodplain. We have multiple large-scale projects going on lower Klamath tributaries, including Hunter Creek, Blue Creek, Turwer Creek, as well as the Redwood Creek estuary down in Oric in Redwood National Park. And then finally, we're working with partners Mid-Klamath Watershed Council and the Karuk Tribe on the McKinney fire footprint. Yeah, we're pretty busy. In addition to all of that, all of these will involve restoration, implementation, and effectiveness monitoring. So there'll be follow-up monitoring on all these projects to see how they did. We're doing the LEAF project with OSU, and you'll hear more about that from Desiree Tullos. It has to do with outcomes of dam removal and incorporation of traditional environmental knowledge into decision-making process and complicated natural resource issues. And then one of our aspirational goals is to get more involved and be meaningfully involved in the wetlands and habitat restoration projects in Upper Klamath Lake, including the Smoke Project and projects going on in Upper Klamath Lake. That's something that's quite interesting for us. And even with all that, I'm sure I left something significant out. My apologies ahead of time. So.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sasha Hallett, and I'm with the Fish Health Group at Oregon State University. This year, we are continuing our long-term salmonid fish health monitoring program that's mainly based in the lower basin. So we've already had sentinel fish studies, annelid studies, and our water sampling is also underway. And as you heard, that's in collaboration with the Karuk and Yurok tribes. And then also this year, starting up again with the Hooper tribal biologists. We also have annelid modeling that Julie Alexander is leading that happens in the summer, and that's collaboration with the US Fish and Wildlife Service, primarily the Arcata office. And then we're hoping to continue, this will be our third year of sampling annelids and doing water sampling for fish pathogens in the Project Reach, but that's pending funding. And that is a collaborative effort with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and also Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. And then finally, we're embarking upon a second year of our Upper Basin Spring Chinook exposures that our grad student Hayden Krause has been leading, and they're to complement the movement studies that are going on up there that ODF and W are leading. And you'll hear more about all of these if you're joining us tomorrow at the annual Fish Health meeting. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hayden Krause. I'm a grad student at Oregon State. Like Dr. Hallett mentioned, I'm working on fish health in the Upper Basin, specifically the lake and its tributaries, by exposing spring Chinook, the Trinity River spring Chinook. And in addition to that, I also collect water samples throughout the upper basin, and I look at pathogen distribution and abundance of those water samples with qPCR analysis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine. I'm a PhD student at OSU in the Fisheries and Wildlife Department. And I'm also working with the LEAF Food Web team, and you'll hear some updates about that from one of our Zoom friends a little bit later on.
Danielle Herford with Bureau of Reclamation. I think Eric provided updates, but if you have any questions, happy to help answer them later.
Hi, I'm Ann Voss, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the California Nevada Fish Health Center. We have a long-term fish disease monitoring project where we monitor for C. shasta and fish tissue for out-migrating juvenile Chinook. That project is going to continue as dams come out. It'll be kind of fluid, but we anticipate there'll be more monitoring sites upstream of Iron Gate. And that is funded by Bureau of Rec, and a lot of people in this room help collect samples for us, but we continue or plan to continue to provide laboratory support for that monitoring project.
Hi, everybody. I'm Anna Rubio, an environmental specialist with the Yurok tribe. I believe that Matt's going to be giving our updates, but feel free to talk to me about kind of running some eDNA projects and working with the Karuk and the Rezagini tribes to do that.
Hi, I'm James Whelan. I'm a master's student at Cal Poly Humboldt. Still feels weird to say it that way instead of Humboldt State, but I'll get used to it eventually. I'm going to be giving my presentation here in a minute, a little bit about my thesis work. So hope you could stick around and ask lots of questions because I'm trying to figure out where the problems with it are, and I'm sure we'll get there.
Hi, I'm here.
Speak out loud.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kira Burnett. I am WSP Corps member stationed with the York Tribe Environmental Department. So I'm assisting our water quality specialist, Josh, and Caitlin, our hydrologist, with their projects, and happy to be here, happy to talk.
I am Randy Turner with the Klamath Basin Monitoring Program. Don't want to go too into detail, but we have a funding proposal in to Caltrans for another 1 year of funding. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully there's no gaps in funding, which have happened a few times, but hopefully there's another fall meeting coming up. We continue to want to post data and reports and other information to our website to be the clearinghouse. So if you have anything, please share it with us so we can help distribute it to the masses. We've recently built a calendar tool on our website to help post events. So if you have an event coming up, please share it with me so we can put it on the calendar and just make it easy access for people to know what's coming up where and when. We've had a monitoring location map on our website for quite a few years, and we recently converted the data set behind it into an Excel spreadsheet, so it's much more easy to search through. So you can easily just download that Excel file and figure out the monitoring from, this covers 2019 and 2020 years, but it's just much easier to filter and sort, use the normal Excel tools for that. And then we are wrapping up a status and trends report on water quality using the KHSA data, and so that's in kind of the final steps before we turn it in. So that's coming soon.
Hi friends, I'm Josh Cahill. I'm an environmental specialist for the Yurok tribe and focus mainly on water quality in the main stem Klamath from Witchbeck to the mouth. And Matt's going to give the updates for our department.
I'm Gary Dempy Wolf by Yurok tribe's environmental force.
Hi, I'm Jan Levy. I'm with USGS Western Fisheries Research Center. This is my first KBMP meeting, so awesome to hear all your guys' projects. Nice to meet everybody. We're a research facility. I'm in the fish health unit, so my research is mostly in fish pathology and disease ecology. I'll be giving a talk tomorrow about suckers and Upper Klamath Lake, so I'll just leave the updates as that.
Hi, Sybil Diver, Stanford University. I do collaborative research with Karuk Department of Natural Resource with my colleague, John R. and others. And we just shared earlier this morning some of our current study. That's a social impact assessment of Klamath dam removal in partnership with the Kuduk Tribe for tribal well-being. I also do some writing with colleagues, with tribal colleagues, Ron Reed, Carolyn Smith, around how to use different knowledge systems, Western science and indigenous knowledge systems, and how to think about that, in doing some of indigenous-led land management work, and also have written a little bit about sort of the complexity of working in decentralized water quality management systems, and both the power and the effort that that's and requires from local community groups and tribes. So pass to John R.
Thank you. My name is John R., and I'm a biologist for the Karuk Tribe Water Quality Program. I'm actually not in a great position to speak to the program right now because I just got off medical leave. But some of the projects that I'm working on are a 20-year retrospective water quality report using Karuk and Yurok data. So thank you, YTEP, for all of that. I'm working on a study of high elevation wet meadows and their effect on stream cooling with the University of Washington. And I recently published with 3 members of the California Indian Basket Weavers Association a journal article about CEBA's environmental justice actions.
Cool. All right. Did anyone not speak? Did we miss anyone? All right. Well, thanks for that. We're going to jump to people on Zoom here real quick and just try to keep this flowing. I think we have in order, we'll go Brian, Eli, and then Matt Hannington. If that's okay, if you guys are ready, go jump on it.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
We can, yeah.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the chance to be here today. I'm Brian Tilt. I'm part of the Oregon State University group. I think some of you know my colleagues Desiree Toles and Julie Alexander, working on food web issues and water quality and fish disease. I'm a social scientist. I'm an anthropologist, and my role on the project is to try and understand the human values and perceptions and experiences of people in the basin. Ultimately, our goal is to create a structured decision model that sort of helps people to understand trade-offs with different management actions. And we're partnered with the Yurok tribe. As Mike Belchick just mentioned, one of the real challenges of this project is to think about how might we engage with traditional ecological knowledge in natural resource decision-making? In my world, data collection means interviews and surveys. So we may be reaching out to potentially some in this group to recommend colleagues working in the restoration conservation space. And then I have a master's student here, Hannah Boone. Maybe she can just show her face briefly. Hannah will be the one reaching out to people and working on the social science component of this project as part of her master's thesis.
Now, Eli Scott.
Hello again. So we got a few things going on. First, we are involved with the Regional Water Board with oversight of the Lower Klamath 401 and construction general permit projects. So we're working on the dam removal. And then another thing that's going on within our office is the renewal of, or I should say, the drafting of the new federal lands permit, which covers U.S. Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service, National Park Service management of lands in the North Coast. The original permit was in 2004. This is the 4th iteration of the permit, and it's going to be addressing discharges associated with routine management activities like commercial timber harvest, fuels management, prescribed burns, sediment source controls, and grazing. Public reviews coming up pretty soon, and there will be a public workshop during the summer of 2023 during that public review period, and then an adoption hearing on April of 2024. And then within the Scott and Shasta, the stuff that I work on directly, we did get the waiver that was spoken to earlier renewed for 2.5 years, so I'm able to focus on the next iteration of the permit, hoping to take a lot of the comments that we've received during that renewal process and even before into account, make sure that we've got good transparency, it's trackable, and implementation continues forward a little bit more rigorously. I also am funding, not me personally, the Regional Water Board is funding the Shasta Valley RCD. to continue collecting data in the Shasta River, and that data has shown continual improvement in dissolved oxygen since the adoption of the TMDL, which is good to see. There's still some problem areas, but we are seeing a good forward trend. And then I'm also going to be doing another year of biostimulatory conditions monitoring in the Scott. Since we got 3 dry years worth of data, we'll be able to get 1 not dry year worth of data, which is going to be great. So that'll be biweekly nutrient sampling, deploying dissolved oxygen temperature loggers, and hopefully getting at least one of them telemetered. So that'll be great. And that's all I got.
All right, Matt, are you still ready, or did you take your hand down for a reason? Matt,
No, I just took my hand down that way I didn't forget.
Okay, all right.
Yep. Thanks, Randy. Hi, everyone. Sorry I can't be there in person. I feel like Caitlin gave some overview of our department, and Mike gave a nice big overview of the fisheries department, which is always very impressive to hear. I feel like the main announcement is that as far as many of you know, I've been trying to transition from my position since October of 2019, since I moved back east to take care of my dad. And so I finally had the signed paperwork today to promote Josh, who's there with Randy. So starting May 29th, Josh will take over as the water program manager. I'll stay on part-time to just kind of help transition him until we deem it as necessary. So we'll probably be co-joining meetings together for a while, which we already started a little bit. So that's the kind of the major announcement. Thanks everyone for just keep continuing the work. I appreciate what everyone's doing, and sorry to say that I have to leave, but I really feel that conservation should be a local thing, and unfortunately I can't be there. The other updates, I guess, because we're so beyond on time, I'll give really quickly is we're still continuing our main STEM work with KHSA and RES in partnership with USGS for some of those sites, which Karuk is doing as well. And we are continuing our work with the Army Corps of Engineers to try and plan drinking water sources for the Yurok tribal members into the future. That's been about 3 years in the making, and I am flying back to give some community public meetings in end of May and June for that as well. We are moving forward with our wetlands program to try and categorize headwaters wetlands, their uses, TEK knowledge around them, and to try and prioritize restoration in the future, along with pairing that to potentially help increase surface flow duration for the future as well to some of those drinking water tributaries. That funding was just approved by the EPA, I think in May of this year. So that program will be continuing at least another 2 years, starting in October of this year. And then, all the hydrology work that Caitlin has stated. And then just general support in terms of a permitting and water quality water quality control measures for construction projects around the reservation. That's always continuing and trying to just make sure we build everything as best as possible. So that's it. Brief.
Thanks, Matt. In the order I'm seeing it, Maya Singer, Marina, and Laurel.
Great. Thanks, Randy. Hello, everyone. I seem to be perpetually on Zoom, so I'm sorry I'm missing the group in person today. A few overview notes. We are working to complete an analysis of large-scale algal harvest in Upper Klamath Lake as a near-term method for improving water quality in the lake for endangered suckers. It's been a long time coming, but we're nearing completion. That's Fish and Wildlife Service funded, also NIFWIF, and Stillwater's working on that with SFEI, with Randy, Jake Kahn, and Eli Sarian. And we have some various other partners, including the Klamath tribes and some algal harvesters. We're also midway through treatment wetland modeling of nutrient removal within the Lower Klamath National Wildlife Refuge. That's funded by the California State Water Board, and Fish and Wildlife Service is the lead. Randy is also working on that project with me. We're just getting started on 2 new projects. One is the Williamson River Drought Resiliency Project. That's with the Klamath tribes. We're looking at phosphorus sequestration potential in the Williamson River Delta Preserve from phosphorus coming down through the Williamson and Sprague rivers. That's Stillwater. Jake Kahn is also working with us on that project, as is Randy, SFEI. And then Megan Skinner already mentioned this one, but we're going to be supporting Fish and Wildlife Service. We're just getting under contract for this Upper Klamath Basin Wetland Restoration Pilot Study, Conceptual Design and Work Plan, and that's looking at the efficacy of phoslock or lanthanum modified clay for avoiding unintended releases of phosphorus as part of wetland restoration. And then Moss Driscoll mentioned this a little bit earlier. Stillwater hasn't started this yet, but we hope to soon support the Klamath Water Users Association on the Lost River, Lower Klamath River Watershed Stewardship Support Project. And the funding there is through the Bureau of Reclamation, and Stillwater would be providing technical support on hydrology and water quality. And that's it.
All right, and Marina.
It's really incredible to see all the work that's going on in the basin, so thank you all. I'm Marina Mountner. I'm with the Stockholm Environment Institute, SEI. I'm on a project with Laura Forney and Emily Gosch, and we're conducting a NASA-funded project, and the title is Can Remote Data Connect Us to the Land? A Landscape Analysis for Breeding Satellite-Based Information and Indigenous Knowledge in California. So we're working to identify interest and potential barriers to the use of earth science information in Indigenous communities in California, and especially to evaluate wildfire risks and benefits, forest cover loss, drought, and other indicators related to water and land resources. So we're aiming to provide a picture of the current access to and use of remote sensing data and derived tools for tribal lands, and then to understand if and how spatial temporal mapping can support decision-making in tribal communities in combination with traditional approaches. As part of this work, we're conducting one-on-one interviews with subject matter experts like all of you and tribal community staff and users, as well as distributing a survey for tribal community members. So the survey seeks to understand how remote sensing and spatial data can complement tribal land and water resources management practices, and then also the barriers to its use. It's going to inform the development of new technologies and decision-making tools that are adapted to the needs and values of tribal communities in California. So hopefully we'll be reaching out to some of you individually, but also I'm going to put my email in the chat, and we're looking for opportunities to distribute our survey. We have both an online version and paper versions, and we're looking for community events, different conferences, specifically targeted towards tribal members. So I'm going to put my, as I said, email in the chat, and then we'll probably also be reaching out to some of you individually about your work with remote sensing. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you.
All right, and Laurel.
Hey, I'm Laurel Gimzoli. I'm at the University of Montana, but working with a lot of folks here. There's a few projects to mention. We're continuing to do macrophyte surveys in the river again this summer. This was a project started in 2019, surveying for the cover of rooted aquatic plants and filamentous algae from Iron Gate down toward the mouth of the river. So this will be the 5th year of those surveys, initiated as pre-dam removal surveys. We're also going to be working on a project trying to understand a little bit better the seasonal timing of the filamentous algae bloom. And this is work that's supported by the Oregon State University project, the LEAF project that was mentioned a few times, also with the Yurok tribes. So we're going to be doing some additional surveys throughout the summer for filamentous algae. I'm also working to finish up an analysis of benthic anatoxin. This is work that we did in 2021 with Grant Johnson at the Karuk tribe at sites throughout the Klamath Basin. And so this kind of more broad scale analysis should be getting finished up this summer. I'm also working with folks at Quartz Valley Indian Reservation to compile data from a benthic anatoxin study that they did in the Scott River and some tributaries there, where pretty high levels of anatoxin were found in the summer and into the fall in the Scott River. And then I'm also working with some folks at University of Nevada, Reno, who are working in the Salmon River on anatoxin. And specifically there, we're working on some outreach materials to try to get some educational stuff together, just to inform folks a little bit more about the various algal toxins that are occurring in the tributaries throughout the basin.
All right, thanks, Laurel. Dan Troxel. Dan, are you ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi all, Dan Troxel, California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Klamath River Project. In short, also co-coordinator with Matt Hannington and soon to be Mr. Josh Cahill of the Klamath Fish Health Assessment Team. Those of you that aren't familiar with that group, we're just in short a technical working group that basically tries to keep a real-time track of conditions on fish health and river conditions. Thanks to the KBMP website and Randy for continuing to host all of our information there. So please do check that out if you haven't seen it before. I'll leave any broader updates to Morgan Connectley, our new senior supervisor here for the program. So thanks all.
All right. Benji Ramirez and then Morgan.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Benji Ramirez. I am the district fish biologist for the Klamath Watershed District of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. Just a few things to keep the ball rolling. So like James Whelan is going to present on soon, we're in the throes of our second round of experimental releases of Chinook salmon in the upper basin. So our Klamath reintroduction fish biologist, Mark Herford, is leading the effort, and he's working closely with Rochelle Tallman on the releases above Upper Klamath Lake and James Whelan on the releases below. So we've been busy tracking fish, and we got our last round of releases coming up. So we've kind of spread them out. We've taken a lot of info that we've learned from the first round and tried to hone in on things. We've been working with the USGS and the Bureau of Reclamation a bunch to get detection efficiencies for our pit tag antennas that are throughout the basin. They're part of the sucker monitoring program up here. So things are looking good this year. We've got incredibly favorable conditions in Upper Klamath Lake. Our hatchery manager is actually out fishing Upper Klamath Lake today, and he won't quit sending me pictures of all the big red band he's been catching, and he thinks it's because the water quality actually looks fantastic right now. So that's exciting. We'll continue our work with Oregon State University to use those Chinook for fish health studies as well. So while we have these fish on the landscape, we're also assessing any pathogens they may pick up and doing different exposures throughout the season. Philip Milburn, my supervisor, is leading the charge for ODF&W on assessing and hopefully starting to implement screening in the Klamath Basin with particular emphasis on the Keno impoundment. So that's a big coordinated effort. We've been working with irrigation districts and federal agencies and anybody who's willing to work to try to set the stage in the upper basin for anadromy to come back. So that's been pretty exciting. There's a lot of money flowing through the basin, and screening is a good way to spend that money. We just need to find the best places to do it at, and hopefully in the right order. So we're also in the throes of we're going to a 2-year angling regulation. So we're setting our angling regulations for the years 2024 and 2025. And so these will be the ones that will run just prior to and then post dam removals. So there will be some changes. I will be sure to update the group, and we're going to have a public meeting on it, hopefully in a couple of weeks. And yeah, nothing crazy. Just there's not going to be any fishing for salmon or steelhead. We're just trying to find ways to minimize bycatch of returning anadromous fish in our red band trout fisheries. So there'll be some changes to the red band trout fisheries. And one last thing I guess I'll bring up is, so Bill Tenniswood will be presenting on it later today. But a big thing for us right now is bull trout in the Upper Klamath Basin. And like he's going to talk about, we lost multiple populations almost entirely in the bootleg fire. So we're going to be focusing starting later on this summer on bull trout. And we're really moving towards reintroductions in key areas as part of that recovery plan. So yeah, as always, I'm available whenever if anybody wants to talk about these things more. There's a lot going on, and that was just a quick spattering. So thanks.
All right, Morgan and Desiree.
Hey there, Randy. Thanks for hosting and getting this this meeting off the ground and coordinated. So let's see. My name is Morgan Kneckley. I'm a new supervisor within CDFW's Coastal Fisheries Program. We're working on the Lower Klamath and the Trinity rivers, and we're knee deep in planning for our upcoming adult escapement seasons. We'll be counting Spring Run on a cooperative project with Hoopa Valley Tribe and the Yurok Tribe over on the Trinity starting next month, and that'll be ongoing for for a little while, and shortly thereafter the fall season will kick off for us. And I just say that we're actively contemplating changes in the freshwater fishing regulations, as Ben had alluded to in Oregon. We have a public process that's ongoing. Outreach has begun, and we hope to go to notice with those regulations in August of this year, with a discussion hearing in December, with adoption of those regulations in February of 2024. So there's an opportunity for folks to get engaged if they haven't to date. Let's see here. Dan mentioned KFAT. We've been cooperating with Sasha and the OSU group, collecting water samples in the California portion of the hydroelectric reach as well, monthly. Let's see here. Brett Cormos, our program supervisor, has been working and coordinating with Pacific Fishery Management Council for a potential work group that contemplates changes to harvest management that would consider short-term effects of dam removal, as well as consideration for repopulation, in addition to long-term future stock recruitment analysis. So there's a lot of potential harvest management work associated with that need. We're pretty involved in Iron Gate Hatchery, Fall Creek Hatchery transition right now. Construction at Fall Creek Hatchery is ongoing, and this upcoming spawn year will be taking eggs for fish that will be reared partially at the new facility up at Fall Creek. So that's a pretty busy up there as well. We're knee deep in life cycle monitoring at Bogus Creek, which is tributary right below Iron Gate Dam, and we feel like that's going to be a pretty interesting pilot or little study case pre-post dam removal at Bogus Creek. And let's see, we also have a pre-project trout assessment up on Shovel Creek scheduled for mid-June. So thank you.
All right, Desiree.
Hey everybody, my name is Desiree Tellis. I am a professor of water resources engineering at OSU and the lead PI on a project called Water Quality, Ecology, and Equitable Decisions in the Klamath Basin. It's a project funded by Oregon Sea Grant, and the big sort of umbrella keywords around the project are water quality and multiple ways of knowing. And our focus is really more on the lower river behind Iron Gate Dam. So we heard from Laurel about the ecology work. We're doing surveys of filamentous algae, macrophytes, and periphyton below Iron Gate Dam. And we'll use those data to develop some preliminary models and evaluate drivers of production to the extent that we can learn what we can. And then we're also working with Julie Alexander at OSU on linkages between water quality and annelids that underpin sea Shasta risk. You heard from Brian about the sociocultural work, essentially documenting how different groups, in particular those with deep experience with the river, understand water quality and river health. And then the sort of framing of this is that we'll bring those two parts together in this structured decision analysis that aims to try to bring together diverse perspectives and ways of knowing the river. So it's a major theme of sort of evaluating different ways people know and understand river health, and partnering with the Yurok tribe as full partners, and then also working with different groups in the basin. And then finally, we have a huge outreach effort. I've been working on a podcast about the dam removals, which has been really fun, and includes some really fascinating conversations with some of the folks who are here at KBMP. And it's almost finished. We have 2 final interviews, and then it'll be in production for a couple months. So it'll be out by August 1st for sure, but it's essentially documenting sort of the context and the process of dam removal. So yeah, that'll be coming soon. And then also other stuff. We have an artist working with us. So she's developing, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it is yet, but understanding products to kind of understand water quality and river health. Bunch of field experiences for students and other youth. I'll have 50 students down in the basin this weekend, whitewater rafting and collecting data. And if I survive that, we'll be back down in the river every 2 weeks starting in mid-June. Yeah, so thanks, Randy, for organizing and it's good to hear all the updates from everyone. Thanks.
Yeah, and Grant, I think you're the last one with your hand up.
Yeah, I'll just chime in real quick. Grant Johnson, Crook Tribe Water Quality Program Manager. I won't rehash all the stuff that's already been that's gone over already. Pretty much anytime you hear Crook Tribe and water, that's us down here. We're really excited to be working with RES, doing a pretty big partnership with them and USGS and UROC, doing a lot of the monitoring for 401 compliance, amongst all the other projects that you heard about today. So I'll see a lot of you tomorrow.
Well, Grant's summary, he's doing so much more than what he just gave out. I'll just say that. Well, thanks everyone for your patience. It is a machine gun of information coming at us fast. So, you know, it's great to hear everything. Hopefully folks were taking thorough notes, but either way, you know, lets you kind of understand what's happening and, you know, gives you the opportunity to follow up with people about, you know, specific questions you have. So really powerful hour we just spent. We are running slightly behind schedule, which I kind of anticipated, just given how long mini updates really honestly take. We have one more presenter.